Hey, this is Professor Homo. Welcome to Ex4, your first HTML exercise that you'll be adding CSS to and some other things. But for now, we're just going to get our first CSS file done. And I already did the overview, so we'll get started with this right away. What you need to start is you need brackets or another text editor, but if I'm going to use brackets. Also, in your Finder or your folder setup on Windows, just make sure that you're going to be saving things into your Ex4 folder. Right in your main directory, not in images. I have a pre-art folder here where I have original JPEGs. So you don't need pre-art, and we might put that somewhere else. The only thing to remember about pre-art is you're not going to upload pre-art. You will upload images, and there's my Ex4 header. You're going to have one too, and you may not have it yet, but that's okay. You don't need it right now. You could do it after the fact. But where you will save your index file is going to be in this Ex4 folder. Remember, these are the generic homepage things that I put in for you, so you have a homepage to look at first that will actually link to your other exercises. You could download these from the server, but you don't have them already, so you could just download them from the server. But I have them here in my folder, and I'm using myself as sample. My name is Student Sample, so you'll replace Student Sample with your first name and last name. Alright, so I'm going to get started in brackets, and here's brackets, and I'm working on a Mac. And one thing I'm going to do over here is, if you're in the kind of the generic getting started area, you could go here and say open folder. It's kind of, if you've worked in Dreamweaver, it's kind of like defining a folder. So it'll look at your entire folder. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to open folder, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go to upload sample first, because that's my main folder. And then I'm going to choose this one, Ex4, because I want to see everything in the Ex4 folder. And that's going to be my work folder. So since I'm working on Ex4, I'm having that as the folder that I'm going to work inside. That way I have my images in here. And notice you could click on and see your image if you need to. My pre-art I don't need to look at for any reason, but they're here. And this is also, I'm going to save my index file in this main directory. If you have this image here and you want it to go away, you could just go File New, because we don't have another file to look at. So I'm going to go File New. And we're eventually going to save this as index.html, and you might as well do it now. I'm going to save it right away. File Save As, and I'm going to save it right here in my main directory of Ex4, and I'm just going to call it all lowercase index.html, and that's all I need. That's going to be your home page, and you could have a home page in every directory. So I'll save this as index.html. Now I have it, and you could see it here in your list. We have images, index.html, and while I'm working in this, I'm going to start off first with my doc type. Okay, and what am I missing here? I'm missing my exclamation point. And I'm going to put in HTML. Now you don't have to have it in caps, but it actually looks better in caps. So you can type it like that. That's the first thing you need, your doc type. And then the second thing I'm going to put in is my HTML. HTML. I'm going to do lang. And when you find something here, you could hit enter, and it'll give you some little kind of shortcuts for you. Once you start typing something like lang, now it's asking, so you don't have to remember what is it. I could scroll down here, although by the time I go through this I could have just typed it, but there's my HTML lang equals en, and remember I'm going to close it way at the end, so I'm just going to hit return a bunch of times here and put my HTML at the end. I don't want it right here yet. Okay, now next thing I'm going to do after HTML, what comes after that? See, this is why I want you to type it and not look at something while you're doing it. I want you to get used to what comes next. Does body come next? No, your head comes next. So I'm going to type in my head tag, and notice that right now it's set that it's actually putting the opening and closing. A couple things you'll put in your head tag. And the first thing you're going to put in your head tag is your meta char set, which is the UTF, and just start your meta tag. And notice that once you start it, it'll give you a little shortcut here, and you could do a CH, and if you do equals, it should look for some here, and we're looking for the UTF, which you should see, UTF-8, and there it is. So we didn't have to memorize all that. It helped us out. And that's all we need for that. Other things inside the head tag, and I could even hit returns here, so everything is kind of lined up and indented a little bit. One of the most important things is your title. Remember, your title actually shows up at the top of your browser window, or it shows up in a tab. It can be used for search engines, and it could also be used for people's favorites or bookmarks. So I'm going to put my title, and this you could just type in, and I'm just going to put, and I think that's all I'm going to put. You could put, if you want to put another like CSC 230, you can do that. That could be your title. Okay, so we have our char set, We have our title. Other thing you could put in here, you could put another meta tag. We mentioned about this one. Now this one we don't really need, but it's for search engines, so you could put meta description. We're going to start it off by going meta, and then I'll say name equals, and you can put in description. You don't have to type it. And then you could just do a space, and you could do content. You can see content's coming up, as long as you spell it right, and put equals. And then in quotes, you could put your description. In whatever you want to put. My first HTML page for Ex4. That's fine. Whatever you want to put in, that'll just show up. And if you want to put, that's just for search engine, so we're not really going to use it. You're not going to see it. So whatever you want to write in there is fine. And after my head tag, I'm going to hit 2 spaces just to create some separation, and I'll put my body tag. Remember, that's everything that's going to be visible now. So I'm going to start off with my body. So if you remember from what we looked at for your body, the first thing in there is actually an image that's in a header. We're going to use an HTML5 header. So I'm going to start off by typing a header tag. And you can see it comes up here. And you can finish it off. And I'm going to hit return. And this actually is where your image is going to go. Now before putting it in, I'm going to wait to put it in. I'm just actually going to put a comment. Now you can go edit, block comment. And I'll just put a comment in here, and I'm going to just say, image will go here. Because I'll put in my image. Maybe you don't have your image done yet, so I'll just put a little, almost like a little placeholder. This is called a comment in HTML. It starts off with a bracket, an exclamation point, and 2 dashes, and it ends up with 2 dashes and a bracket. And it can't be anything else. You could put anything else in between, but it has to have that. And notice that it's gray. It means it won't be seen on the page. It's like a little note to yourself, and we'll use those occasionally. It's good. We'll use those in CSS and JavaScript and all kinds of places, although sometimes they're a little different. So I'm just going to do that now for the header, and I'm going to move on. Remember, this is HTML5 tags. I'm going to hit return again, and I'm going to put in what's called a section element. And this will just be we're just indicating a part of our page where our main content's going to go. Okay, and what's going in the section, if you remember from our sample, is going to be after our image up top is just going to be a little headline that's just going to say what the page is. And I just opened up an older version of that finished one I had. The image isn't showing it up because I moved it out of the folder. That's why that's broken. And by the way, when an image is broken, here's the alt text for that other one, header pic. So at least you know what this is. So if you see something missing, you know it's a header pic. That's what the alt text is for. If your image is missing, at least one of the reasons for using alt text. But here, this is what we're going to do. You're going to call it Student Samples Ex4 CSC 230W1. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. That's going to be an H1 tag. Notice it's big and bold. So I'm going to do that first. I'll just, I'll just copy this in. I'll go back to brackets. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put in an H1 tag. And if I see H1, I could just hit return. And I'm going to paste in my text. Student Samples Ex4 for CSC 230W1. That's my header. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a paragraph. Okay, and what's going to go in this paragraph? I'm even going to hit return because I'm going to type a line here. And what I'm going to do after this is do my ordered list. And remember, an ordered list, you use a UOL for ordered list. And notice it's putting the ending tag right away. And if you need to tab that in, you could tab that in. And for all ordered list doesn't really have anything in between it except the line items. So I'm going to hit return and put in my line item. And here's my first line item. And it puts the double opening and closing tags here. And my first line item that I'm putting in here, my favorite TV shows. And I'm putting Lost as my first one in here. Now that's just text. And you can put your text in, and then we're actually going to link that text. But maybe we could link the first one because it might be easier. So we'll do the link to the first one. That way you could just copy and paste all that link text. So right now it's not linked. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to do Command S. And I'm going to see what I have so far. I could use this little preview thing over here, and it should open it up in another Chrome browser window. But here's what I have so far. Not very impressive, but there's my number. So it does have my number there. And you could leave this open or minimize it. You could just leave it open and then refresh it. And what I'm going to do with Lost, and I'll put another LI down here just so I have it set up. And I guess my second one is going to be Breaking Bad. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll do a link here.